Last week, the world lost an absolute legend in the world of martial arts and action film. Chuck Norris passed away unexpectedly at the age of 86. And I have some footage I want to show you that I believe was recorded around 2014, where Chuck Norris was talking about his political beliefs. And it may surprise some of you. Chuck Norris used to be a Democrat, but an interviewer asked him why he changed and how he became a conservative. And I want to play it for you because it's pretty interesting, and then I want to talk about a few things. Because this man, in my book, deserves a lot of honor. Take a listen to this.
Why are you a conservative, sir?
Well, I used to be a Democrat, but unfortunately the Democrats went too far to the left, and the Republicans moved into their position that the Democrats were 40 years ago. See, and so what the Democrats believed 40 years ago, the Republicans believe today. And so I realized that I had to go to a Republican because the Democrats just got too far off the trail. They just got completely off the trail and lost all reality of what America stood for. And so I realized that Republicans at this point in time are more focused on what is best for America than what the Democrats are.
Now, I understand Chuck's assessment. And to be honest with you, I believe that he's on to something. At least he understands how the average person thinks. Because I believe that that's what most people think about Democrats and what they used to be. That Democrats are not the party that they are today. And that, my friends, is true to a large degree. But if you study the history of the progressive movement the way I have, that was always the plan. See, the progressive movement started in the late 19th century and carried through the 20th century and hijacked not just the Democratic Party, really both parties, to move towards socialism and communism, but to do so gradually. But that's a topic for another video. But I believe that the average person thinks a lot like Chuck when they think of what the Democrats used to be. I think they think of people like John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy, people who were for fairly limited government and for civil rights and civil liberties. And if that's what the Democrats were or are today, I wouldn't have nearly as many problems with them as I do. But that's not what they are. And we have seen this radical shift within the past few decades, but they've been at it, my friends, for over 100 years. So I do believe Chuck is right, in part. But the media wasted no time after Chuck's unexpected passing to slander his name. You don't have to look very far. I came across articles where they were talking about Chuck being a fascist. Why? I'll give you one guess. If you guessed conservative Christian, you guessed correctly. Now compare that with the unfortunate and tragic murder of director and actor Rob Reiner, who was an outspoken progressive, and I think he was a wonderful actor and a director. But as far as his politics, the man was very nasty. He was very nasty to the people he disagreed with. He was very nasty about President Donald Trump. He was very nasty towards conservatives in general. And yes, I believe Rob Reiner was not unlike his character Meathead in All of the Family. He was a radical Marxist, and I believe a nasty person. But I still think it was tragic what happened to him. Now, the media, when he passed away, they were singing his praises. And I can give Rob Reiner credit for being good at his art. But when Chuck Norris passed away, did you see that same courtesy from the media? No. They trashed him, and they continue to trash him over a week later. There's a very good article, it's an opinion piece written at the Western Journal that I will post in the description of this YouTube video, where the writer highlighted the reaction to Chuck Norris's death by some nasty people on Reddit. And I'm sure the numbers have increased by now because the article's over a week old. But there were thousands of people who celebrated the death of Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris? Really? Why? Well, it makes sense when I tell you what I told you before, that he was a conservative Christian. That is why. Chuck Norris was not afraid to stand up for what he believed in. Chuck Norris used his platform to advocate for freedom and for liberty and for Christian values. The man deserves some honor and some respect for that. He started a program in the early 90s that took martial arts and used it to teach children discipline and good values to make them better people and to get them away from drugs. I believe it's called Kickstart Kids. It was originally called something like Kick Kids Out of Drugs. Does that sound like something that's bad to you? I think that is overwhelmingly positive. Kids need discipline. People need discipline. Chuck understood this, and martial arts are a wonderful way to teach people discipline inside. When I was a child, I studied Taekwondo for several years. And I will tell you that it does good, especially for kids, to teach them to regulate their anger and to channel that anger in a positive way and to learn peace and inner serenity. Chuck understood this. That's someone who should be celebrated, and shame on the media for trying to besmudge his legacy. Chuck used his platform for good, and that is how he should be remembered. Not as a fascist, because he was nowhere near it. I'll show you some other clips at the end of this video where he unapologetically stood up for America and for freedom. That is why the left hates him. Because he understood that without God at the foundation, America cannot have liberty. That's what the founders knew when they gave us the republic. That you need a Christian society to sustain self-government. So I want to encourage people, live a life like Chuck Norris, no matter what you do, to be unafraid, to stand up for Christianity, to stand up for Christ, and to stand up for good moral values, and be proud to be an American. It does not mean that you have to support everything that our politicians do. I certainly don't. And I'll be the first to tell you that. If you've watched this channel for any amount of time, you know that I have many gripes with our elected officials. But I am proud and honored and blessed by the privilege of being an American. And God bless the memory of Chuck Norris. God bless his family. God bless his wife, Gina. And I would encourage you to continue to pray for the family at their time of loss, because it was unexpected. And we still don't know the cause of death for Chuck Norris. But I'm here to tell you that man is alive in Christ. and his legacy should be celebrated, not only as an action star who stood up and celebrated masculinity in its proper context, but someone who used his platform to make the world around him a better place. If you agree with me, do me a favor and like this video, share it so that more people see it, and subscribe to my channel for more content, because we are building something on this channel that is special. We are building something on this channel that I believe will save this country and will restore it to its former glory. God bless you, God bless America, and God bless the Chuck Norris legacy.
What do you want to be remembered for most?
Can I answer that one?
Yeah.
Okay, let me answer that, because that is a great question. Can I read it to you?
Please do.
I think it's better when someone else talks about the other person instead of them talking about themselves. So if that's okay, let me honor you for a minute. So I know my husband, we've been married 21 years. We have 7 children and 13 delicious grandbabies. But I know my husband as a kind, honest, and humble man that would like to be remembered as a committed Christian. A man who loves his God, has loved and served his country, loves deeply his family and his friends, and has worked tirelessly to make a positive difference in the lives of at-risk children. Quite simply, you'll be known as a humanitarian forever.
I have to tell you all, you know, when I first entered competition, my first karate tournament was here in Salt Lake City.
Yeah! Way to represent!
Yeah,
Yes!
in 1964, I took 3 of my students. My schools were in Los Angeles. I took 3 of my students and myself, and I drove my old car all the way to Salt Lake City and to compete in this tournament. And they're beginning students. Anyway, I win my first 4, but my 5th one beat me. I said, okay, I got beat, but I'll never get beat the same way secondly. My 3 students won all 3 of their championships.
And you ended Salt Lake City on a high note.